Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Brickazoid's Den. Yesterday was the series finale of Amphibia, so Amphibia Season 3, episode, I think, 18 it was. And yeah, this was it. This was the last episode. It was called The Hardest Thing, and I didn't actually end up watching it last night. I got caught up in something else, and I wasn't able to watch it. I wasn't able to make a video on it. So I'm making it this morning, and I just finished watching the episode, and it was a really good series finale. It really wrapped up the show perfectly. Love how they did the ending. I was a little kind of worried going in because I wasn't really into the whole moon storyline, kind of like the moon being controlled and coming for Amphibia. That was kind of like out of left field, I thought, but it wasn't really it wasn't used in the way that I thought it was going to be. I thought like most of the episode was just going to be focused on just like trying to destroy it, but it really wasn't. There was more I don't know, like existential kind of stuff going on almost about for this episode, and then there was other things that kind of made up for that kind of I think kind of like a left field thing, but um, it was it did give us some pretty cool moments with Anne, Sasha, and Marcy taking it down, but um, there were much more interesting stuff that kind of overshadowed that whole moon thing to make it feel much more interesting, I guess. Um, and now I kind of have even more questions than answers going in now. But anyways, we'll obviously get into the breakdown now, just kind of talking about what happened in the episode. Alrighty, so we start off with the core, who is living and flies itself to control the moon. And King Andreas, explains how the moon was home to experiments done by the core. The moon's going to eradicate Amphibia, Earth, whatever, by crashing into it. And the group doesn't really know what to do, doesn't really have a plan. But Mother Olm comes from the ground, saying the three stone wielders can use the power to save Amphibia, but might not have enough power to get home. Marcy and Sasha are completely willing to stay and help, even if they can't get home. Anne and Mother Olm talk like faced her privately about a hidden power where they can harness all three stones' powers, basically, and may die in the process, but they could use all three stones' powers to destroy the moon, basically. So then, I forget how they say her name. Is it Valeriana? I forget how they say it. I forget what her name is, but one of the newts there who knows a lot about the box and things like that, is there to help Anne, Marcy, and Sasha connect with the stones. Anne, Marcy, and Sasha become super powerful. They get different outfits, and they basically become the Powerpuff Girls, I would say. And they have like that whole like anime moment in the space, basically. So Anne, Marcy, and Sasha fly up into space to fight the core moon. Each character is highlighted, taking down a different part of the core moon's weaponry. Andreas is being tempted by the core back down on Earth in Amphibia. He's being tempted by the core and his father, King Aldrich, and sends his robots in to help push the moon back, showing his full turn, I guess, away from being tempted by the core and his dad. He is now a full-blown hero now for sending his robots out to help Anne, Marcy, and Sasha push the moon back. Sasha and Marcy's powers are fading, but Anne explains the special power where she may die to Sasha and Marcy, and she has to use it because that's the only way they're going to actually be able to take down the moon. Sprig uses Frobo to fly up into space after Anne after hearing about this power from Sasha and Marcy. Anne asks the stones to help her, and then they destroy in her hands, they disintegrate in her hands. And Anne and Sprig have a moment before Anne uses the stone powers to destroy the moon, and Sprig gets Anne's body from space and disintegrates. Like, literally has like a Peter Parker, Spider-Man moment in Infinity War, actually. I guess, like she got Thanos snapped, basically. When she wakes up, Anne wakes up in this dreamlike world on a floating island where there's a small house, and goes inside where there's a like a desktop computer to chat with the name of the name of the person who she was talking to was the Three Stones deity, and the computer turns into Domino after Anne's like, "Why are you using this old timey computer?" And the Three Stones deity was like, "Oh, this isn't what people use nowadays. All right." So then the computer turns into Domino, and this cosmic guardian explains that the real Anne is dead, but the Cosmic Stone Guardian made a copy of Anne before she died, basically. So the Anne that we see 10 years in the future, oh, yeah, at the end of the episode, is a copy of Anne, an exact copy of Anne, but not the real one that we've been with the entire show. I think is kind of what they were going for, which is pretty weird. It is really weird. And even Anne, I think, mentions that there's going to be some sort of like eternal crisis or existential crisis or something like that when she's older or something like that. She mentioned that. But anyways, Anne is asked to be the replacement for the Cosmic Guardian, and the Cosmic Guardian created the stones to see how mortals would handle unlimited power. Very Palpatine there. Anne is the only person who was able to use it for good in like 10,000 years. So that's pretty impressive. Anne does not want to be the Cosmic Guardian, though, and instead wants to live her real life because she's only 13. Anne is going to eventually be the Cosmic Guardian, though, when she dies in 78 years, which is kind of dark that Anne now knows how long she's going to live for. But basically 78 years from her being 13, she's going to pass away and then become the next Cosmic Guardian who can wield the stone's power, control the multiverse, things like that. And that's basically that. She's literally going to be the controller of time, basically. The controller of everything, really, which is crazy. But, that, again, she's going to live her life first. So that's a pretty good deal, I would say. Anne comes back to everybody crying over her disintegrated ashes, which was kind of dark. And everyone kind of comes back together with Anne after realizing that she's still alive. Or this carbon copy has come down to meet with them again. So Anne was given power shards that are able that give enough power to send her home, but it's a one-time use. So everybody kind of this is the sad part where everybody has to say their goodbyes. So Marcy says goodbye to Unan and Lady Olivia. Marcy also says goodbye to Andrus as well, which was a strong moment because of course Andrus, really was a villain. He was the season 2 villain. So it was very nice that Marcy kind of acknowledged the positivity that they had together, or the good times that they had together while in the amphibian castle, even though there was a lot of bad stuff that happened, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Sasha and Grimes start crying as they say goodbye after trying to act super tough and being like, no, I'm not going to cry, you did great work, but then they just start bawling out into tears. So Anne says goodbye to Polly and Hop Pop, but then they have this very long moment where Anne and Sprig must say goodbye to each other too, which makes sense because Sprig was, the co-main character here. Although I didn't really see him do too much in this episode. Anne gives Sprig her phone, and then Anne, Marcy, and Sasha must say goodbye to Amphibia once and for all. Anne and Sprig have one final goodbye moment, and then they walk through the portal, and the box disintegrates. Then basically we have a time jump where Amphibia rebuilds itself. Frog, Newts, and Toads live together. Andreas is basically Thanos, living on a farm on his own, basically, in Amphibia. So that was kind of cool. There's a lot of Infinity War references here. And then Wally, the Amphibia character Wally, bumps into Polly, who is a full-blown frog now. Everyone's older. Joe Sparrow and Bessie, the snail, are together. They have like a kid. They have like a bird-snail child. Unan and Lady Olivia are Amphibia representatives, but talk about settling down in Wartwood together at some point. Sprig is older and uses Anne's phone, which has pictures of different creatures, to make a journal of his adventures, basically. And then, basically, everybody goes to this unveiling of a statue of Anne, and Ivy talks to Sprig about Grime, who discovered some sort of new continent of land that hasn't been touched by Amphibia at all, and they're going to go check it out. Then we cut to Earth, where 10 years later, Marcy is older and is getting picked up by Sasha from the airport, because of course Marcy moved after her parents divorced. So it turns out in these 10 years, Marcy has been writing web comics. Sasha is a psych worker, and Sasha and Anne didn't really talk as much in high school after Marcy left, so you could see there was already some distance there. Anne is a herbologist. There we go. God, I completely blanked on the word for a minute there. At a museum, that's kind of her profession, which is obviously perfect for her. And Anne, Sasha, and Marcy come back together, and it seemed like it was like Anne's birthday, I think it was. It's kind of like what it was looking like. And they all kind of come back together at the last moment, and they leave the the herbology room, basically, with like a picture with a final shot of a frog that was the same kind of species as Sprig, and then the words "the end," showing the end of this journey, the end of this story. So yeah, so there we are. That is the series finale of Amphibia. I know I only covered season 3 on this channel because I haven't, my channel wasn't around when seasons 1 and 2 were out. But if I did make my channel earlier, I would definitely would have covered this show too. I would have loved to have covered the entire series, really, but season 3 is enough as well. But maybe I'll go back and like kind of make videos on some of the previous episodes. But the point is, this show was so good. It was really good. I feel like whenever I talk about shows like Adventure Time, Gravity Falls, like real classics that I really enjoyed, I think Amphibia is going to be a part of that list, just like The Owl House is going to be as well when that show eventually ends in probably the coming year. But this show was just such a really fun adventure. There was a period of time where I wasn't really watching a lot of animated shows in between, I would say, Gravity Falls ending and the start of Amphibia. And eventually, when Amphibia started, I'm like, well, might as well give it a try. And I'm so glad that I did, because all the work that Matt Brawley and the entire Amphibia crew did was incredible. So, again, this season finale was or series finale rather was super well done. I really loved like the whole existential kind of stuff they did with Anne, basically, well, Anne being a carbon copy. There's a lot of things that I'm like, whoa, I gotta have that sit for a minute. But once it does, I can definitely appreciate this show even more. I mean, I already appreciate it so much, but the point is, what an amazing show. What a really well done show. And I hope there are more shows out there like this that eventually come up in later years so that I can watch it and have an experience like this. But either way, once again, thank you to Matt Brawley and the crew for making this incredible show. And yeah, that's really it. Thanks for watching, everybody.